We have the main event. Mr. T joins forces with Hulk Hogan, and he faces Paul, Mr. Wonderful, Orndorff,
Paul Rudd,
Roddy Piper, which is being managed at this time by Cowboy Bob Orton,
Did he
son,
have the cast on?
with the cast, whose son is now the Legend Killer, Randy Orton.
I did
Right.
not know that his father was a wrestler.
Oh yeah,
What?
yeah. He was a pretty big. He didn't get to Randy's level, but he
Mhm.
was a pretty big deal by association by hanging around with Piper for all those years.
Yeah, and that was gonna be my question because I never had seen Cowboy Bob Orton never wrestle. I think maybe once after he took off his cast, like at a Saturday night's main event, but I don't remember that match.
He was pretty good, not great. I mean, his son was obviously a lot better,
Right.
but also, his arm was broken for like 4 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
How can you wrestle like that?
Very, very
you
carefully.
can't.
Yeah.
So this one goes around 13 minutes.
Wow.
And,
Was that
yeah.
the longest match?
No, I think it is maybe tied for the longest match because the Andre one, even though it ends with a body slam, goes around 10 minutes. And,
Yeah, but part of that is just he's moving slow. So
and the San Martino and Beefcake actually is almost around the same time.
wow,
And
that
that actually ends up, that's the one where I was like, why did they have it go so long?
Yeah.
Just the skirmish. So,
wow.
do you recall ever seeing Bob Orton anywhere else in any matches?
Yeah, I mean, just his stuff with Piper.
Yeah, but actually
it wasn't
working,
notable. Yeah, it wasn't really memorable. Like his whole thing was the cast.
Yeah, that's the only thing I remember. So I just wanted to make sure that you did not have anything else that you might have seen that actually would have been like this, like, because I'm like, why would Vince have him so long just to be in a cast?
Well, it's kind of like he's like the Ed McMahon, to Piper's Carson.
I guess
he's the sidekick. So
yeah, since I guess Paul couldn't do the Ed McMahon shtick, we had Cowboy Bob to do it, huh?
Well, Orndorff was not great on the mic ever.
Oh no, he wasn't.
But he looked great. He could work well. Yeah. And he was probably, out of the heels, he was probably the best worker at that time. Piper's pretty beat up at this point, compared to his younger days. But I think the big deal. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Maria.
I was just gonna say that I liked Ronnie Piper, his bagpipers. Yeah. That he came out with them, and I was like, that's a commitment to character. So I was pretty impressed with that. I was like, I don't know why, I'm like, I never clicked that his name and then Piper. So that was pretty cool.
He was one of the best ever.
Oh yeah, he was a very great heel, and he took the whole sticking to your character and your gimmicks very seriously, and he did not like outsiders coming into the business. So there was a couple instances where he got in trouble because he took it a little bit too far.
Yeah. Well, he also did a promo in blackface for this match.
I had no idea.
That's one thing I wish that they would include in these, because like we started watching the rewatch on Peacock, and they don't have like those little build-up vignettes, which eventually they start working on those recaps where like the build up to why this match is happening. And
I think they want to forget the blackface.
Well, but it's just like one of those things where I'd like to revisit, because like for her, who like, she's probably coming into this like, why are they wrestling? Besides me telling her, well, Vince had this idea and he wanted to blend celebrities and wrestling together, so it became more mainstream to get more people to watch a show.
And we cannot understate how cool Mr. T was at this time. Between the A-Team and Rocky, like if you're a kid at this time, Mr. T's like the coolest thing ever.
I mean, he's iconic, right? Yeah. It's like, even what is it? Hulk Hogan, despite all of his many things going on at that time when we were young children, he was iconic.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, yeah.
No,
So
one of those.
We got to tell Marie about this promo. That did you ever see it on YouTube or anything?
I think I might have seen it in briefly, but I don't remember anything of it. Like I remember like his face was all smeared because I guess he eventually smears off his black face.
But right? What he had, he was mimicking a conversation between him and Mr. T, but half his face was painted black. So he would just keep turning side every time he would talk as Mr. T. He would just show the black side of his face. Like, totally messed up.
So offensive.
Yeah.
But he was just trying to get that bad guy heat. You like as a bad guy, as a heel. Yeah, you want people to not like you.
Right.
And you want people to like hate you and throw things at you and
he crossed lines.
Yeah,
for sure.
But you wanted to. You wanted that because it builds to the story better. If you build yourself as a real hated guy and that's your job as a bad guy,
right,
and you have to get the next guy over, the crowd is gonna love it so much when you get your comeuppance.
Right. And I think I got a better understanding of that in that show called Heels, right?
Yeah.
So I got a better understanding of like what the responsibility of a heel is and how a wrestler feels when they're like embracing that kind of like bad person or like terrible person. So I mean, it does wear in sometimes.
You can get away with a lot more in the 80s. Like when Piper had a feud with Jimmy Snuka, who was built from Hawaii, he attacked him with like coconuts and bananas. Like he literally smashed a coconut on his head. And then he takes a banana, he's like, here, have a banana, and he shoves it in his face.
So crazy. So I mean, wrestling today, what do you think diversity is looking like? Do you think it's better, or do you think they still have a ways to go?
There was a lull. Actually, Vince Sr. was actually pretty good at diversity, more so than his son was initially. Okay. He had the Wild Samoans, he had Mr. Fuji. You know, they weren't like clean portrayals by any means, but
he had diversity.
Yeah. And his son kind of whitened the place up and was like that for a long time. But he's made it a little better. I think sometimes it's not always for altruistic reasons. He pushed the Great Khali because they were doing more business in India. He was pushing Jinder Mahal also. He got some new luchadors when they were doing more deals in Mexico. Like Sin Cara was supposed to be a big deal for him, and that kind of flopped. But
Sin Cara, without face,
but I mean, you know, he's had Roman Reigns as champion for 1,000 whatever days, so that's surprising.
Yeah, that is very surprising, especially since that is one of the best storylines that's happening right now on WWE TV.
Yeah.
And when I went on the podcast for the WrestleMania preview called Podcast Championship Wrestling, me and some other guy, Doyle, were the only ones that had predicted that Roman Reigns would actually retain. And my whole thing was that
you got to get 1,000.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that, but it was mainly like, where do you take this story? Because the story of Roman Reigns and the bloodline has not been primarily feuding with Cody Rhodes. Like Cody just came in here, but that's not how you end that story because that's not what the story is. I don't know where the story is going. Is it going to end with Jay or Jimmy or Solo taking over the bloodline? Because, I mean, you have Roman so far up that win, whoever gets it, is going to be a big push. Like, big credibility, and I don't know, as good work as those two brothers have been doing, Jimmy and Jay, Jay could possibly take it a little bit more further along as a solo competitor, but it would seem like it would not actually last too long. I feel like they missed the boat not giving it to Sammy because Sammy already had everything going.
Yeah. I agree with you that I think it's Jay, but also for practicality reasons. Jimmy's the one with the DUIs, right?
I thought they both had them, but Jimmy
Do they
does
both
have
have
more.
them?
Yeah, but
Hmm.
Jimmy has more of a history with them. But Jay had gotten one, I think, recently, not like this year, but I think last year.
Because they used to not be able to wrestle in Canada because of
Yeah,
their
because
criminal records.
yeah,
So whoever has the cleaner record, I think for practicality's sake, just for the travel restriction. So maybe you have to go with Solo
yeah, that's what I was
because he
thinking.
doesn't have a criminal record.
Yeah,
But Jay and Jimmy, like their dream is to wrestle each other at WrestleMania and have their dad involved, which I think would be fantastic.
is he gonna? They also choose that he did it for one of them. I did it for Jay.
Or loser gets the stink face.
Yeah, and then one of them gets to do the worm with him, or did they
Hey.
call it Hottie Too Hottie for that?
Is that Lawler's son? I forget which one.
No, that one's Brian.
Lawler. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
he's rest in peace.
Grandmaster Sexy.
Yeah, rest in peace, Grandmaster Sexy.
Yeah.
And hope for a speedy recovery for you. Still, Jerry Lawler. So he's still working through his whole health issues with the stroke and everything like that.
Oh, wow.
But
So what were the celebrities' involvement in this?
the celebrities involved, we had first coming out was Liberace.
That seems funny in retrospect.
Who came out with the Rockettes and started doing high kicks with Liberace. Which is funny because it reminds me of the Young Rock when they had that one episode in I think either season 3 or season 2 when they have the dad bringing them to the WrestleMania after party or before.
And he runs into
his in Alpha, not Alpha, whatever the Rock's mom's name is, I forgot, but the Rock's grandma.
Atta.
Atta.
No, yeah.
Atta.
Atta's his mom.
Yeah, Atta's mom is all fanning. Atta and his grandma are all fanning over Liberace. Oh my God, Liberace's here! And then they all go on, but it turns out that he was gay. And
I mean, in retrospect, how did we not know at the time?
That's true, but I wasn't really thinking about anything like that when I was 4 or 5. Whenever I think.
So,
I mean, I didn't know Freddie Mercury was gay until I was older.
Yeah, much older. So, Liberace, you were saying?
Oh, no, I was going to say, so we had Liberace, we had Cyndi Lauper, we had Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali as the special ringside referee. Now, why will we need a ringside referee for this?
Because he wasn't good. He didn't know how to ref a match properly, probably. And I don't think he probably wanted to go down on his hands and knees to do the count.
Yeah, because
pretty hard work.
Yeah. And then we had
Billy Martin. What did
Billy
he do?
Martin? Yeah, Billy Martin, New York Yankees manager, off and on and off and on.
Yeah.
Again, and he just came in here to say hi. Apparently, right? Because I think that's what he does. Like, hi, you've all been great fans.
Wow.
Was he? They didn't even have me like the guest timekeeper or whatever. I don't know.
The guest timekeeper was Liberace.
Oh.
So once the match begins, they have him ring the bell, and Muhammad Ali standing next to him.
Ring the bell like you should with this channel, so you get notifications.
Click subscribe, download and listen if you're on the audio side. Subscribe. If you don't, unfortunately, like hearing the sound of my voice, just download and subscribe.
I didn't know you were doing audio too.
Shoot. Yeah, I'm gonna track this to the audio podcast too.
I would have changed how I spoke to be. I don't think I did anything. Yeah, like there's some references. No, there's some references you have to make where you have to explain what you're doing for people that are only listening.
You know what? Like you describe.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's
okay. It says that at the bottom. I was not reading that until now.
I just changed the scroll.
Okay, I'm like, oops.
It happens. It's not like I'm planning to have an amusement park with dinosaurs or anything like that.
I am.
So
Spoiler.
how do the celebrities play for you, Maria? I mean, does Billy Martin mean anything to you? If you're not from New York, does he mean anything?
Not Billy Martin, but everybody else. I was super excited. And me being a noob watching this, I was just like, wow, this is just too much excitement. I'm like, Mr. T. I'm like Hulk Hogan, Cyndi Lauper, Muhammad Ali, Liberace. Who's next? And then you guys are saying Billy Martin. I was like, who's that?
Yeah.
So, but now you're explaining it to me. I'm like, oh, this is very exciting. So,
that's very inside baseball.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, well, this is a smart move, right? Because it brings people like me that are like kind of, new to wrestling. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I would watch, I guess the same thing like football, right? Like who's gonna, who's gonna be doing the halftime show, something like that.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Like, who's gonna do the halftime show? Who does the Star Spangled Banner?
So like that's an additional draw.
Yeah, I guess. Would you say that the NFL kind of took that from Vince?
I don't remember the first halftime show that was a big deal. Like
I don't really remember it either. I just remember that when I started watching back in the Super Bowls, the halftime show was some university from Wisconsin.
Oh wow!
Because it was the Green Bay Packers versus I forgot who it was.
Wow.
Was it the Jets or the Colts? One of those. No, Kansas City.
But like Billy Martin was definitely for the live audience.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just for those New Yorkers,
because I don't think anybody cares from like Wisconsin or something.
Yeah, so that, I mean, I guess in order to sell the tickets, you need to get the local talent. So you would, someone, a big name celebrity, where you're like, well, Billy Martin's gonna go here, so it must be a real legit thing to go watch. So
it was at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, Madison Square
Live at Madison Square Garden.
Now, Raymond, do you have any problems with the way this match went? Because it didn't have a clean finish. It's just basically Cowboy Bob Orton is gonna use his cast to hit Hulk Hogan.
But he hits Orndorff.
He hits Paul Orndorff instead. So he eventually leads to the defeat of his team.
Yeah.
Now, would you figure that it probably should have been more of a clean win or it doesn't not matter because you figure that Mr. T deserved one of those. He beat the odds. He's the guy that doesn't have any real wrestling experience and things like that. And maybe he should have been the one that actually kind of takes the pin and the win a little bit. Or is it more because a traditional one should be like, well, wrestlers should get the pin, that way no outsiders type of thing?
Well, I'm a kid, so I'm still a mark. I don't even know this is fake at the time.
Right.
And Mr. T was so cool that when he first got in the ring, I'm like, damn, Mr. T kind of sucks at wrestling. So
yeah, right. That's what I was thinking too, even on this rewatch. But as a kid, I was like, oh no, man, Mr. T's in the ring. Holy crap.
But then he sucked. I was disappointed. I'm like, whoa. What happened? I see him jumping off his truck and doing all sorts of cool stuff on the A team, but he can't wrestle. Mm-hmm. But so as a kid, it was really disappointing how, I didn't understand that wrestling took a lot of training and a certain kind of skill. Cause I just thought Mr. T was cool. So he had to be good at this too. And when he wasn't, it was like, oh,
yeah.
I was a big fan of Orndorff even at the time, so I was kind of happy that this was making him a good guy. So, I didn't understand heel turns and face turns at the time.
Yeah, I didn't understand it either, but I just thinking about it and seeing it now, that whole setup and the pin and the win happening, booking wise, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, a lot of this doesn't make sense. A lot like these days, when you have a pay-per-view or PLE, almost all the finishes are clean.
Right.
And, this was the first major WWE event. And looking back at it now, I'm like, wow, Like half of these matches are schmazes. They don't end in a DQ or whatever. And
so schmaz for all the newbies like me.
Yeah, it's a match that doesn't end that ends in a disqualification or a count out where there's no clear winner. Yeah. And you can do that on TV. You know, you could do that at a house show, but now the custom is that you generally don't do that on something that people are paying extra money for, because you feel like you're ripping off the people that are paying extra.
Okay.
But that wasn't a rule at that time though.
Yeah.
But it just seems funny in retrospect that all these matches end like that.
Yeah, like also the time limits. There's I haven't been paying attention, but like recently, but they no longer announce time limits for matches anymore.
Right.
Because with the Intercontinental one with Junkyard Dog and Greg, they were talking about that would have been in 1 hour time limit. So I'm like, we could have. Then Maria's like, they're not gonna wrestle for an hour, right? I'm like, no, that's the time limit. So if it ever reaches an hour, then the bout ends as a draw and no one wins and the champion will retain.
Right.
So, they used to though. That used to be pretty common.
Yeah, that's what I was telling her. But there was times where like it could have gone that far and you wouldn't know that it, you know, because that was the whole point of a time limit. Is you had the whole thing where it probably would have been, but you hear, oh my God, this is an hour. They might go an hour today, guys. We might get some gold, you know. But it you know, sometimes it wouldn't happen, and you'd have like 15-minute matches or anything like, or 15-second matches as we saw today.
9-second matches.
Right. So I mean, it's always like the expectation. So that's why I'm like kind of like thinking about it now. This whole pay-per-view on Peacock is saying that it was a 2 hour and 16-minute runtime, whereas now the Manias go around 3+ hours.
But TV matches and house show matches were very different at that time. Like Maria wouldn't know this, but there used to be like moments where we call them rest holds now, but sometimes like he'd keep them in a headlock for like literally 5 minutes.
Wow.
And you can't do that on TV anymore because it's boring, you know.
Start dancing. This is boring. No.
Yeah. I mean, they were part of the thing at the time. Like they would hold an arm bar for 5 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, rest holds, but it's also to reset a match and figure out where you're going to be booking, setting up spots and things like that. Because if you're not working with somebody before, which there was a lot of back then, because it was, as we mentioned, a lot of territory. So one guy would be on lent or being lent or being brought over. Like Vince would be like, well, you know, like he would do with Andre. Andre could wrestle anywhere else internationally.
Right.
But in the United States, he was locked in. So if he went to Japan, you know, then, you know, Andre would have to be like telling the guys, throw me to the rope and things like that. And, you know,
it's like 5 minutes in one position. I'm like,
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, rest holds would also be used to go through his commercial breaks if we were being on TV.
Okay.
And people were just more tolerant of these rest holds back then too.
I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, we had more patience back then.
Yeah, as a people.
As a viewer.
Yeah.
I mean, even baseball is being sped up, right?
But I love it. I don't know if Ray's been out to a baseball game, but I actually love that it's been running around 2 hours, 15 minutes, 2 hours, 20 minutes.
I've not been to a Major League Baseball game since I left California, actually, now that you mentioned it.
We might be going to one in New York. So.
Yeah.
Pretty soon I'll get to go to A's games.
Woo!
No, I'll go watch when the Yankees are in town for sure, but I don't care. But A's games used to be my thing in San Francisco because nobody went.
Oh yeah.
So Wednesday they would have $1 hot dog games. So a bunch of us that were like poor video game journalists, we'd go buy a ticket and be like, "Hi, I'll have 20 hot dogs. You just put them all in this bag."
and I'm leaving for the rest of the
day. I'm like, this is my food for a week.
Like, you're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
The game.
No, I'd stay for the game.
Okay.
That must have been when the Yankees came. That's the only time he stayed.
No, I'd go on Wednesdays for sure. When those, I mean, it's $1. So where can I get cheaper entertainment than that?
That is true.
No, as we're going to our final thoughts here, on this match, anything else stick out to you?
Well, I mean, Hogan was over more than anyone,
right,
at the time. So when he, even just his entrance was electric.
Oh yeah, the Real American entrance.
That was actually originally for the U.S. Express.
Yeah,
and they Hogan ganked their song.
Wow.
Yeah, but Hogan used to come out to Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, because but that was
Rocky 3.
Yeah, because of Rocky 3, even though when he came back from Thunder Lips, because at first he left to go film it, even though Vince told him not to go.
Yeah,
because I think he thought Rocky 3 was gonna be a flop or something, right? And then so Hogan's like, "This is my chance. I'm gonna go do it, brother." And he went off to have a very nice, was it like a 5-6 minute scene?
Yeah, and he has great lines where he's like, "Thunder Lips is here in the flesh, baby."
So that was a fun thing. I think I didn't get to see Rocky 3 live. The first Rocky in theaters. The first Rocky I saw was Rocky 4. And the only reason I saw that game is because the Cubs game was rained out. So there was a rain delay. So my father wanted to go take me to go see that instead. Because he's like, "Well, I have you for the day. I'm off. Ball game's not going to happen. Let's go see a movie."
That's nice.
And you learned about U.S.-Russia relations.
I did. I also learned that you can beat a guy on steroids if you train the old-fashioned way, just running through the snow.
Not true at all.
What?
Take the steroids. You'll be much better.
That's outrageous, Raymond. You're